Before the world sees the numbers in your bank account, the universe must first read the belief imprinted in your mind. If you are waiting for money to arrive before you feel rich, you have misunderstood how creation works. Wealth does not begin in digits or dollars. It begins in consciousness. You must first walk, talk, think, feel, and breathe like a millionaire in your imagination, long before the world reflects it in physical form. Every true transformation begins with an invisible decision. A moment in time where you stop being a beggar in your mind and rise to become a king in your thoughts. People often look at their current reality and use it as evidence of what's possible. They let their external world dictate their internal experience. But the secret is this: your inner world creates the outer, not the other way around. When you begin to act, not pretend, but truly act, from the state of already being wealthy, life begins to shift in your favor. This is not about faking it, this is about faith. Faith in the unseen. Faith that the mind, fully saturated with the belief of wealth, will command the forces of the universe to rearrange the world around it. Your imagination is the womb of all creation. And just like a seed, once planted and nurtured, it must grow. But the seed doesn't doubt. It doesn't beg the soil to bloom. It simply knows what it is destined to become. So I ask you, do you know that you're wealthy? Or are you waiting to see proof before you believe? A true millionaire of the mind doesn't check their bank balance for validation. They don't walk into a room feeling less than others because of temporary appearances. They walk with inner authority because their identity is no longer tied to circumstances. It is tied to the truth they've accepted within. The truth is, you are not broke. You are not waiting. You are becoming. You must assume the feeling of already being wealthy. Speak with certainty. Make decisions with confidence. Dress with pride. Think expansively. Stop measuring your worth by the weight of your wallet. Instead, measure it by the power of your awareness. The richest people in history were once poor in the eyes of the world, but rich in the eyes of God. Rich in self-concept. Rich in inner knowing. You are not chasing wealth, you are awakening it. Every time you look around and say, "This is not enough," you deny the wealth within. But every time you declare in silence, "I already have it," you plant deeper roots into the fertile soil of abundance. And soon the harvest must come. It must. That's law. You don't get what you want. You get what you are. And what you are is decided by how you think, feel, and act in the unseen moments. When no one is watching, when there's no applause, and no money in hand. Act as a millionaire of the mind. Because once that identity is accepted, the bank must follow. Reality has no choice but to bend to the belief held most deeply in your soul. So change your inner conversations. Change your posture. Change your mental diet. And above all, never act from lack again. Act from wealth. Think from wealth. Move from wealth. And watch as the riches you once begged for begin to chase you. Shift from wanting to being. There is a vast and hidden difference between wanting and being. Most people live their entire lives in the state of wanting, crying out for more money, more freedom, more recognition. They say, "I want to be rich," or "I wish I had money," and they believe those declarations are steps toward their desires. But what they don't realize is that wanting something keeps them locked in the vibration of not having it. To want something is to admit to yourself and to the universe that it does not yet belong to you. It is to look out at life and say, "That is far away from me," instead of declaring, "That is mine." Every time you want, you are pushing your desire away, keeping it on the other side of an invisible wall built by your own mind. It's not your hard work that's failing you. It's the subtle belief that you are separate from what you see. Being, on the other hand, is a sacred shift in consciousness. It is no longer saying, I want to be a millionaire, but boldly affirming, I am one. And that isn't lying to yourself. It is the truest thing you could say, because everything begins in imagination. Everything. Your present reality was born in some prior thought, some prior assumption. The same will be true for the wealth you seek. To be wealthy in the mind is to live in that reality now, not waiting for a bank statement to catch up. Your job is to become the person who already has what they once wanted. This means walking differently, thinking differently, speaking differently. Your posture changes. Your tone of voice changes. Your decisions change, not recklessly, but confidently. Because when you shift from wanting to being, you're not hoping anymore. You're expecting. You're claiming. You're assuming the posture of ownership. This internal shift is so powerful, yet so subtle, that most overlook it. They try to manifest wealth while emotionally rooted in poverty. They repeat affirmations while secretly believing nothing will change. But the truth is, only the one who fully becomes the thing they once chased will ever truly receive it. The universe does not respond to pleading. It responds to embodiment. You must see yourself differently. You must feel differently about money. You must replace the question, how long will it take, with the statement, it's already mine. Then act in alignment with that inner truth. That is the great key. When you're being wealthy in the mind, there's no more fear of what the world says, no more insecurity in the face of struggle. The outer may not have changed yet, but the inner has. And that's the only thing that matters. For all lasting change begins on the inside first. You must no longer chase money like it's a god. Instead, become the one money is drawn to because of how you think, how you believe, how you are. This isn't arrogance, it's spiritual alignment. This is the silent power of being. Embody the feeling of wealth. There is a language the universe understands more clearly than words: feeling. While your lips may say, I am rich, if your heart still trembles with doubt, your energy will cancel your words. That's why many people recite affirmations daily but see no change in their lives. They are speaking from the mouth, not the soul. To truly transform your financial reality, you must feel the truth of wealth as if it were already yours. Feeling is the secret that births the visible from the invisible. It is not mere emotion, it is a deep inner atmosphere that surrounds your imagination and makes it real. To embody the feeling of wealth is to close your eyes and know what it feels like to be completely supported, to be overflowing with resources, to wake up without the anxiety of survival. It is to live right now as if your needs are already met. What would change if you were a millionaire today? Would your body be more relaxed? Would you breathe deeper? Would you carry yourself with a quiet confidence? Now ask yourself, can you feel that way before the money arrives? If your answer is yes, then you are already laying the foundation of your wealth. This is the creative power most people neglect. They wait for their circumstances to give them permission to feel good, to feel rich, to feel powerful. But it is the other way around. Your feelings create the circumstances. What you assume is true in your inner world eventually becomes fact in your outer world. The outer mirrors the inner. It always has. When you embody the feeling of wealth, you begin to think and act from that state. You don't just visualize your dream life, you enter it emotionally. You don't daydream as an outsider. You walk into the dream as the owner, the creator, the authority. This is not wishful thinking. It is the divine act of faith in motion. Every time you feel broke, afraid, or limited, You reattach yourself to the old version of reality. But every time you return to the feeling of, I already have it, you send a new signal into the field of creation. You become a new person, and reality must shift to match it. That is law. So practice this feeling throughout your day. Feel the joy of financial freedom while riding the bus. Feel the calm of abundance while walking through a crowded street. Smile in silence, not because you see the wealth, but because you feel it before it comes. This silent assumption becomes your dominant vibration, and your dominant vibration is your destiny. You don't need to force anything. You don't need to prove anything. Just dwell in the feeling again and again until it becomes your new home, until doubt dies from starvation, until faith becomes your natural state, until you don't have to try to feel rich anymore. You simply are. That is what it means to embody wealth, to turn your desire into a living, breathing state of being. And once you live in it, the world will show up to confirm what you've already known inside. Live the identity first. Before money becomes your reality, wealth must become your identity. This is the forgotten truth. You are not trying to get rich, you are remembering that you already are, but not in the physical sense, in the realm of spirit and imagination. You are already all that you desire to be. It is simply waiting for you to claim it. That claim begins with identity. Most people say, once I have the money, I'll feel different. They think money will make them confident, respected, powerful, but that's not how true manifestation works. The world does not shape who you are. Who you are shapes how the world responds to you. So the question becomes, what identity are you wearing right now? Is it the identity of someone struggling, hoping, and waiting? Or the identity of a calm, established millionaire who knows that everything is working in their favor? We don't attract what we want. We attract what we are. And what we are is always expressed through identity. Identity is the silent engine behind every decision you make. If you identify as someone who always struggles with money, then even when opportunity knocks, you will find a way to sabotage it. If you see yourself as always falling short, the world will show you situations that prove you right. But if you shift your self-create to that of someone who is wealthy, influential, and powerful, then life will move in alignment with that truth. Living the identity first means you don't wait for the outer world to give you permission. You become the person now. You speak from that place. You move from that place. You ask, what would a millionaire version of me do right now? And then you do that. This isn't pretending. This is aligning. It is making a choice to live as the future you before the world recognizes it. This might feel uncomfortable at first. You may feel like an imposter when you walk with confidence or speak with authority. But that discomfort isn't a lie. It's growth. Your old self-image is dying. And every time you choose your new identity over the old one, you are training your subconscious to accept the new version of you as real. And once the subconscious accepts it as real, reality must catch up. This is why identity is more important than environment. You can live in a small room and still walk like you own the world. You can be behind on bills and still think like a billionaire. Because identity doesn't care about the visible. It creates the visible. Start small. Upgrade your inner language. When you catch yourself thinking like the old you, stop and ask, is this how a wealthy version of me would think? Begin to make decisions from that higher place. Choose to see yourself differently, no matter what your circumstances whisper, because your new identity is not a fantasy. It is the seed of your next reality. And once it is rooted in your consciousness, the world will have no choice but to reflect it back to you, detached from external evidence. One of the greatest mistakes people make when trying to manifest wealth is that they constantly look to their external reality for proof. They check their bank accounts every day, hoping to see a shift. They measure their success by numbers, signs, or responses from the world, and when nothing changes, they begin to doubt. They think their belief isn't working, but in truth, it's their need for external confirmation that delays the very thing they want. The outer world is not the source, it is the result. It is a delayed reflection of past thoughts, past feelings, past assumptions. When you understand this, you stop trying to use the outer world to justify or validate your inner state. Instead, you learn to persist in your assumption, even when everything around you looks the same. If you truly want to live like a millionaire of the mind, you must stop needing the world to prove anything to you. You must walk in faith, not in evidence. Think of a seed planted in the ground. Just because you can't see growth on day one doesn't mean nothing is happening. In the same way, just because your outer world hasn't changed yet doesn't mean your inner work is useless. It means the roots are growing. Detachment is powerful. When you no longer obsess over what you see, you regain control of what you believe. You become rooted in inner truth, not external fluctuation. You stop begging for signs, and instead you declare, "It is done." And when you can truly say that with peace in your heart, you become unstoppable. Most people unknowingly kill their manifestations by constantly checking for results. Every time you say, "It's not here yet," you are affirming lack. Every time you say, "Why isn't it working?" you are feeding doubt. But when you say, "I already have it," and then release the need to monitor progress, you open the door for acceleration. The less you check, the faster it flows. This is not ignorance, it's mastery. It's knowing the difference between illusion and truth. The illusion is what your eyes can see. The truth is what your heart believes. And if your belief is firm, then the world must follow. So train yourself to detach from outcomes. Don't let the delay confuse you. Keep living, moving, and thinking from the end result. Let the world do what it must, while you remain rooted in the reality you've claimed in your imagination. The moment you need proof is the moment you hand your power away. But the moment you say, "I no longer need to see it, I know it," that is the moment things begin to shift. Remember, the world reflects what you are being, not what you are wanting. So stop staring at the mirror, start adjusting the image within. That's where the real power lives. Speak, think, and move from abundance. The way you speak reveals the world you live in internally. Your words are not just sounds. They are instructions to your subconscious, blueprints for your future, and echoes of the world you've accepted as real. If your words constantly express worry, lack, and struggle, then you are reinforcing a reality of scarcity, even if you are working hard to change it. You cannot walk into a new life while speaking the language of the old one. If you want to manifest wealth, you must discipline your mouth. Do not talk about what you don't have. Do not repeat phrases like, "I can't afford it," or "money doesn't come easily." These may seem like harmless expressions, but every word carries a vibration, and that vibration tells your subconscious what kind of world you expect to live in. Your outer world will eventually match your inner vocabulary. Change your language and you will change your life. Begin to speak as someone who already has enough. Use phrases that reflect ownership, security, and prosperity. Say things like, "Money flows easily to me," "I always have more than enough," or "I am financially supported in every way." At first, your circumstances may not align, but that's irrelevant. The outer world always lags behind the inner declaration. Speak it first, and reality will echo it in time. But speech is just the beginning. Your thoughts must also reflect abundance. If you spend your day worrying about bills, comparing yourself to others, or calculating what's missing, then you are thinking from lack, even if your words are positive. You must become aware of the hidden conversations running in your mind when you're alone. Are they rooted in fear or in faith? Train yourself to think like someone who is already wealthy. That means thinking creatively, not fearfully. Thinking in terms of opportunities, not obstacles. Thinking what's possible instead of what's wrong. Abundance is not just about having a lot of money, it's about having expansive thoughts, bold ideas, and a limitless mindset. Start nurturing those thoughts now, and you start building wealth even before money appears. Finally, move from abundance. This doesn't mean spending recklessly or pretending to be someone you're not. It means moving with calm, clarity, and confidence, qualities of someone who knows they are supported. It means not making decisions from desperation or fear, but from vision and trust. When you walk into a store, don't shrink. When you see an opportunity, don't doubt yourself. Carry yourself like someone who knows their value is not defined by current digits but by eternal identity. Your posture, your pace, your expression, they all tell a story. Let your movement reflect faith, not anxiety. You don't have to wear luxury to act like a millionaire. You simply need to walk with the quiet dignity of someone who knows where they are going. The world reads your energy before it hears your words. So speak abundance, think abundance, move in abundance, and abundance will respond in kind. Persist in the mental picture. There is one reason most people never see their desires manifest. They give up on the vision too soon. They allow time, doubt, and circumstance to shake the picture in their mind until it fades. But manifestation belongs to those who persist, not once, not twice, but continually. The mental picture you hold must become your permanent residence, not just a vacation you visit when you feel good. Persistence is not about effort. It is about consistency. It is the quiet, steady refusal to give up on your inner world, no matter what the outer world says. It's saying, "This is who I am now," and holding to that truth, even when everything around you contradicts it. Your vision must become more real to you than what your eyes can see. That's when creation begins to respond. Every image you hold in your mind has the power to shape your world. But if you keep changing the image, one day imagining wealth, the next day fearing lack, you are giving mixed signals to the universe. It's like planting a seed, digging it up the next day to check for roots, and then planting it again. Growth cannot happen in unstable soil. Persistence means feeling rich even on the days when things appear to fall apart. It means imagining success when failure tries to knock at your door. It means looking into your inner mirror and seeing your future self, bold, abundant, and free. Until that image is burned so deeply into your spirit that no setback can erase it. You must learn to dwell in the picture, not just glance at it. Spend time each day visualizing your desired life, not as a fantasy, but as a fact. See the numbers in your account, feel the keys to your dream home in your hand, hear the conversations of admiration and success. Make these inner experiences so vivid, so emotional, that your subconscious begins to accept them as the new normal. Once that happens, external life begins to shift, because your mind has already crossed the bridge. But here's the part most people miss. Persistence is tested in silence, in the space where nothing seems to be moving, in the moments where the vision feels far away. That's where you prove your faith. That's where you decide whether you truly believe the picture you've claimed or not. Will you drop it because it's not here yet? Or will you hold it closer, speak of it more confidently, and live as if it's already yours? Remember, it's not about intensity, it's about repetition. The mind doesn't respond to passion alone, it responds to patterns. The image you feed it the most becomes the blueprint of your future. So feed it well. Return to the picture again and again, when you wake, when you sleep, when you're alone in silence. Bring the vision to life, not with strain, but with peace, with certainty, with love. And as you persist in that inner picture long enough, something mysterious begins to happen. The world bends, shifts, and rearranges itself around your assumption, not by accident, but by divine law. Because what you persist in mentally, you eventually hold physically. Faith is the foundation. Faith is the root of all manifestation. Without it, your thoughts are weak, your words are hollow, and your visions collapse under the weight of doubt. But with faith, true, unwavering faith, you become unstoppable. You tap into the same creative power that shaped the stars, the oceans, the mountains, and yes, the money you seek. Faith is not wishful thinking. It is the conscious decision to believe in the unseen as though it were already seen. It is the bold declaration. It is mine, even if I cannot touch it yet. The kind of faith we speak of is not passive, is not sitting back hoping the universe does you a favor. It is active belief, a decision to think, speak, and act from the reality you have chosen, without apology, without delay, and without the need for evidence. Faith doesn't ask for signs, it creates them. Faith doesn't wait for reassurance. It gives reassurance to itself through knowing. This is why so few people live the life they dream of. They may speak affirmations, but deep down they doubt. They may visualize for a moment, but they don't hold that vision when life gets loud. They don't yet realize that faith is proven by persistence. It is shown by how long you can carry the truth in your mind, even when your senses scream something else. Faith requires emotional discipline. You must master the ability to feel rich, even when the bills come in. To walk like a king, even when the world calls you a fool. To smile when others frown, not because you're ignoring life, but because you're shaping a new one. Faith is choosing not to react, but to create. And that creation always begins in the imagination, where every millionaire of the mind is first born. Let no one convince you that you're being unrealistic. Faith is the most realistic thing there is. Because reality is not fixed. It is molded by assumption, shaped by belief, and sustained by feeling. What you believe long enough becomes your life. So believe wisely. You don't need to know how your wealth will come. That's not your job. Your job is to accept that it has already been given to you in consciousness. And then walk as if the delivery truck is already on its way. Faith doesn't beg. It doesn't plead. It simply knows. That knowing becomes the vibration of your life, and your vibration is what calls forth your new reality. Make faith your foundation, not fear. Make the unseen more real to you than the seen. When you do that, you're not waiting for wealth. You are living in it, even if only mentally for now. And once faith is your home, the outer world must arrive to match it. Not because you forced it, but because you became it. You are not here to chase wealth. You are here to remember that wealth already lives within you. The money, the freedom, the luxury. It all begins in your consciousness. And if you can hold it there long enough, love it there deep enough, and act from it bold enough, it must become your lived reality. Act as a millionaire of the mind, and the bank will follow. Don't wait for confirmation to start believing. Let belief be the confirmation. Think, speak, walk, and feel from the end. This is not fantasy, it is the formula. Every great fortune began with a mind bold enough to say, "This is already mine." Do not return to the old identity. Do not let appearances deceive you. You have chosen the higher path, the creative path, the path of divine remembrance. Keep walking it, keep choosing the vision, and let your life become the evidence of what happens when a soul refuses to think from lack for one more moment. The world will see the numbers eventually, but long before that happens, you will know in your soul that you were rich all along, because you dared to believe before there was proof. That is how the invisible becomes visible. That is how you become a millionaire of the mind, before you ever become one in the bank. 7. Spiritual keys to destroy witchcraft in less than 60 seconds. The world you see around you is not final. It is not fixed. It is not immovable. It is a mirror, alive and responsive to the vibrations of your inner state. If you walk through life thinking that miracles are distant, occasional, reserved for the few, then you have misunderstood the nature of reality. Because miracles are not earned, they are aligned with. They are not chased, they are attracted. And the key lies in the most sacred command your imagination has ever been given. Act as if. To act as if you are a magnet to miracles is to rearrange the entire theater of your inner world. It is not wishful thinking. It is not blind hope. It is the knowing that what you long for is already present, and your task is not to chase it, but to become the version of yourself who naturally receives it. Do not ask, "Where is my miracle?" but rather declare, "I am the field where miracles gather." This shift, subtle to the eyes of the world, is monumental to the powers that shape your life. When you act as if you are a magnet to miracles, you carry yourself differently, not with arrogance, but with divine assurance. Your energy speaks before your words ever do. Your thoughts begin to align with possibilities rather than problems. You stop repeating the language of limitation. You no longer say, "Maybe it will happen." You say, "It is happening, and I am ready." You no longer hope with fear in your voice. You trust with peace in your bones. This is not delusion, this is creation. Every miracle you have ever heard of began as an invisible seed planted in the soil of belief. Someone, somewhere, dared to live from the end, dared to walk through their day as if the breakthrough had already happened. They didn't need evidence. They became the evidence. They didn't need proof. They embodied the proof. Your job is not to convince the world of what you believe. Your job is to become so deeply fused with your assumption that the world has no choice but to reflect it. When you walk in faith, the unseen bows to your courage. When you move in gratitude before the miracle appears, you summon it into your experience. When you smile at the sky as if your prayer was already answered, the heavens respond to your signal. Many will say, "I'll believe it when I see it." But you know that to wait for the world to change before you do is to miss the truth of your power. You don't see it because it's real. You see it because you made it real. You magnetize the miraculous by refusing to dwell in doubt. You pull it to you by aligning your inner dialogue with the reality you seek. And even when nothing around you confirms your faith, you walk as though you already dwell in answered prayer. Every moment, you act as if you are a magnet to miracles. You are radiating a frequency that draws all things necessary for your fulfillment. The right people, the right opportunities, the right timing. They begin moving toward you. Not because you begged, not because you forced, but because you became magnetic. You made your heart the home where miracles come to rest. So walk today as if the phone call is already coming, as if the door is already opening, as if the healing is already unfolding. Do not worry about how. The how is not yours to manage. The how will come to the one who is ready to receive. Prepare yourself not with anxiety but with joy. Because when you truly understand that you are the center of your universe, you stop reacting. and you start directing. Act as if you are already walking in favor. Act as if the light is already shining upon you. Act as if everything you touch turns to gold, not because of ego, but because of alignment. Because the version of you who believes, who dares, who expects, is the one who receives. To embody the state of the miracle already fulfilled is to claim with boldness what the outer world has not yet dared to acknowledge. This is not merely imagination, it is creation. When you adopt the consciousness of the thing desired, when you begin to live and move and feel from the place of already having, you call forth that reality into the visible. It's not enough to simply wish or hope. You must become the person for whom the miracle is natural, expected, and unquestioned. The world around you is shaped not by what you beg for, but by what you inwardly accept as true. And this truth need not have evidence in the physical. The evidence is your feeling. The proof is in your assumption. What you consistently assume with faith becomes your experience. This is not theory, it is law. It is spiritual certainty cloaked in invisible movement. Every fulfilled desire began first as an imagined state, fully embraced, fully inhabited, long before a single stone moved in the outer world. You must dare to walk differently. You must dare to think from the end, not of the end. There is a vast difference. Thinking of your miracle leaves it at a distance. It is always something out there, something that might happen someday. But thinking from the miracle places you inside its reality, where you begin to make decisions as if it were already done. You speak differently. You carry yourself differently. You feel differently, not because the world has changed, but because you have. Let the world remain unchanged for a moment. Do not demand immediate transformation. Instead, let your inner world become the seedbed of your future. When you take on the feelings of one who has already received the miracle, you shift timelines. You step into a new version of yourself. This version doesn't doubt, this version doesn't plead, this version knows. And that knowing is magnetic. You are not waiting for the miracle to make you believe. You are believing, and that belief is what births the miracle. If you continue to say, once I see it, I'll feel it, then you have reversed the process of creation. You must feel it to see it. And that feeling is not just an occasional glimpse, it must become your dwelling place. You must make the inner assumption your permanent home, not just a weekend visit. This is not pretending. Pretending is hollow. This is alignment. This is surrender to the truth of your higher self, the self that already lives in the miracle you desire. If you are seeking healing, you must feel the vitality, the strength, the freedom of a healed body, even while your senses argue otherwise. If you are seeking abundance, you must adopt the ease, the confidence, the generosity of one who already walks in overflow. Even if your current bank account is whispering otherwise, you do not shrink to match the world. You expand to transform it. Your senses are the last to report the news. They lag behind your consciousness. So do not wait for them to confirm your belief. Know this deeply. When you embody the miracle, the world will eventually conform. It has no choice. Reality reshapes itself around the identity you choose to inhabit. If you want different circumstances, you must first become someone for whom those circumstances are normal. That is why so many struggle to manifest what they desire. They keep waiting for change on the outside before allowing change on the inside. But it doesn't work that way. The miracle is not a reward. It is a reflection of the inner state you consistently live in. Even when no one is watching, even when everything outside tries to tell you otherwise. Let this be your new way of walking through life. Ask yourself not what you want, but who you would be if you already had it. And then become that person. Breathe like them, speak like them, think like them, love like them, give like them, rest like them. It may feel unfamiliar at first, even foolish. but stay with it. Persist in the assumption, because it is in this persistence that the walls begin to crumble. The old version of you starts to fade and the new one takes its place. The moment you dwell in the state of the miracle fulfilled, you are no longer in need, you are in possession. You are not empty, you are full. And in that fullness there is no room for fear. Fear belongs to the one who waits, but faith belongs to the one who knows. And you must choose. Will you wait for the world to confirm your desire, or will you confirm it yourself by dwelling in its fulfillment right now? To embody the state is to make the invisible feel more real than what your eyes can see. It is to see with the eyes of spirit, not flesh. It is to choose your focus so deliberately that the world has no choice but to catch up. Your world is your mirror, and it cannot reflect a reality that you have not first imagined and accepted as true. So today, walk as though you are already healed, already successful, already blessed, already chosen. Do not visit the state. Live in it. Let your inner speech declare it. Let your reactions reflect it. Let your habits align with it. Because once you dwell in the state of the fulfilled miracle, the world is already rearranging itself in your favor. You are not attracting from lack. You are calling forth what you already possess in the unseen. Nothing, no condition, no person, no delay can keep it from you when you have claimed it within. To radiate the frequency of unshakable faith is to become a living signal that draws the miraculous toward you. Faith is not a passive belief, nor is it a momentary emotional high. It is a sustained, quiet conviction that refuses to be moved by appearances. When everything in the external world looks barren, when nothing around you gives you reason to believe, it is then the true faith must rise. It does not lean on facts, it creates them. It does not wait for conditions, it commands them. Faith is not loud, it is not anxious, it does not beg. Faith walks calmly through the storm, already soaked in the certainty of the sun. When you carry unshakable faith, you are no longer reacting to life, you are generating life. You become the origin point, the center, and from you all things flow. What you hold in consciousness begins to shape itself around you. That is the nature of reality. It obeys the dominant vibration of your belief, not the fleeting moments of your hope. This frequency of unshakable faith must be embodied. You cannot fake it. You cannot simply recite affirmations while holding doubt in your heart. The universe listens not to your words, but to your state. What are you dwelling in, moment to moment? What energy are you saturating your thoughts with? Are you living in fear disguised as logic? Or are you dwelling in certainty that dares to declare, "It is done"? To radiate faith is to no longer discuss your problems from the place of defeat. You do not speak of what's missing, you speak from the place where it is already yours. This requires discipline, not of behavior alone, but of identity. Who are you when no one is watching? Who are you in the stillness of your mind? That is where the signal is set. That is where the miracle begins. The world cannot override your frequency. It can try to distract, it can try to tempt you into fear, but it cannot override you unless you submit. And when you radiate unshakable faith, you are immovable. Not because you are pretending that nothing is wrong, but because you know something greater is already at work. You trust the invisible far more than you fear the visible. You lean into the unseen with more confidence than you respond to what is currently seen. This faith becomes your protection. It becomes your guidance system. You begin to feel when you are slipping out of alignment, when worry creeps in, when fear begins to speak in your mind, and you don't entertain it anymore. You recognize that fear has no wisdom. It only offers illusions, illusions of lack, of delay, of danger. But faith cuts through those illusions like light through shadow. It doesn't argue, it doesn't prove, it knows. There is a peace that comes with living from faith. not the peace of inactivity, but the peace of right alignment. When you are in the frequency of faith, you no longer panic about what step to take next. You no longer question if you're doing enough, being enough, trying hard enough. You know that what is yours is on its way, not because you're trying to earn it, but because you have already aligned with it. Faith is the magnet. It is the energy that reshapes the entire field of possibility around you. Others will look at you and wonder how you can be so calm, so composed, so certain in the face of challenge. They will ask how you continue to believe when everything looks broken. And your answer will not be found in complicated philosophy. It will be found in the quiet assurance that lies within your spirit. I know because I have already seen it in my mind. I know because I live there now. I know because I do not need proof. I am the proof. To hold faith in a world addicted to doubt is the most radical thing you can do. It separates you from the crowd. It elevates your perception. It transforms your expectations. And the world will eventually rise to meet those expectations, not because of luck, but because of law. The law responds to faith the way seeds respond to soil. Plant it, water it with consistency, and the harvest is inevitable. This does not mean you will never feel fear. It means you will no longer be ruled by it. You will see fear for what it is, the final test before the breakthrough, the shadow that precedes the dawn, and you will choose over and over to return to faith, not by force, but by remembering who you truly are. You are not a beggar. You are not a victim. You are not at the mercy of circumstance. You are a co-creator. You are a magnet to the miraculous. And your frequency is your signature. Your life does not change when the world changes. Your life changes when you change your frequency. When you stop vibrating with worry, when you stop carrying the energy of lack, when you stop speaking from the vibration of not enough. You cannot manifest abundance from a state of need. You cannot call in love while vibrating in unworthiness. You cannot expect miracles while embodying misery. What you radiate returns. So what will you radiate today? Will you meet your morning with worry or with gratitude that the miracle is already unfolding? Will you speak as someone lost or someone led? Will you think from the problem or from the promise? These choices are not small. They are the building blocks of your reality. Each one fine-tunes your frequency. Each one signals the invisible forces around you that you are ready or not. Unshakable faith is not arrogant. It is not loud. It is not attention-seeking. It is steady, quiet, bold. It moves in silence and manifests in power. When you truly radiate it, you don't need to convince anyone. You don't need to explain yourself. Your results will speak. Your transformation will be your testimony. And those who once doubted will ask how you did it. And the answer will always return to this: I believe before it came. I aligned before it appeared. I was before I saw. He said, expand point, 3 up to 1,000 words without headings. ChatGPT said, to detach from the how and trust the unseen bridge is to release the reins of control and step fully into the power of surrender. Most people fail to realize their desires not because they lack vision, but because they cling so tightly to the process. They demand answers, step-by-step instructions, visible paths, and immediate clarity. But the unseen does not operate under the constraints of logic. The miracle does not obey the narrow route the mind has constructed. It carves its own way, often silently, invisibly, and without explanation. When you plant a seed in the soil, you do not sit and question every day how the roots are forming beneath the surface. You do not yell at the soil demanding it show you signs of progress. You trust the process. You water it, give it light, and wait in confidence. Why then do we not treat our desires the same way? Why do we try to force doors open, manipulate outcomes, or stress about the details we cannot see. The bridge of incidents that will carry you from where you are to where you desire to be is not your responsibility to build. It is your responsibility to believe. And belief does not demand clarity. It demands trust. It does not require proof. It requires inner alignment. The more you try to control the how, the more you signal to the universe that you do not trust its intelligence. And in that lack of trust, you cut yourself off from the very forces designed to help you. When you declare your desire, when you dwell in the feeling of its fulfillment, the wheels of the unseen begin to turn. People are moved. Events are arranged, conversations are sparked, opportunities are crafted, all in response to your inner state. But you may not see any of it until the moment of revelation. And that is where so many abandon the process. Because they cannot see movement, they assume nothing is happening. But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. You are not here to push the current. You are here to align with the flow. And that alignment begins when you stop asking, how will it happen? And start affirming it is already on the way. This posture of trust removes the weight from your shoulders. You don't have to figure it all out. You don't have to control every variable. You don't have to chase or beg or manipulate. You simply have to. To live in gratitude before evidence appears is to step into the highest form of spiritual alignment. Gratitude is not merely an emotional response to a gift already received. It is the key that unlocks unseen doors. It is the declaration that what is unseen is already real, that what has not yet arrived is already yours in essence. When you give thanks for the miracle before it materializes, you prove that you understand how reality is shaped. Not by sight, but by belief. Most people reserve their gratitude for after something happens. They wait for conditions to change, for things to go their way, for desires to be fulfilled, and then they say, now I am thankful. But that is backward. Gratitude must come first. Gratitude is not the result of a fulfilled life. It is the cause of one. To express gratitude in advance is to act from the assumption that you already dwell in the answered prayer. It is to signal with your entire being, I know it's done. This energy cannot be faked. You cannot pretend to be thankful for what you secretly doubt will happen. The mind may repeat words, but the heart must align with the truth. The feeling must be genuine. And so gratitude becomes a practice, a deliberate returning to the inner place where your desire is already fulfilled. You do not thank from the place of hoping. You thank from the place of knowing. This is the great secret. When you begin your day with gratitude for what has not yet appeared, you draw it closer. You close the gap between desire and manifestation. Because the moment you feel grateful, you are no longer separate from your desire, you are one with it. You are no longer longing, you are receiving. You are no longer in lack, you are in abundance. This shift is subtle, but it is the very hinge upon which miracles swing. The world may not understand this way of being. It will call you unrealistic. It will accuse you of being delusional. But remember, the world does not create your future. You do. And you create it through what you accept as real. Gratitude in advance is not about tricking the universe. It is about revealing to yourself what you already believe. It is the outer sign of an inner conviction. A sacred conversation between you and the unseen forces that govern creation. This is why gratitude must not be conditional. If you wait until things go your way, you are not practicing faith. You are practicing reaction. Faith says, I will rejoice now because I know it is already mine. Faith says, I give thanks not because I see it, but because I feel it. This level of gratitude changes you. It changes how you carry yourself, how you speak, how you think. And in that shift, you become a match for the reality you seek. Gratitude in advance is also a form of humility. It acknowledges that you are not doing this alone. It recognizes the unseen intelligence orchestrating details beyond your comprehension. When you give thanks before the door opens, you are honoring the process. You are surrendering the how while celebrating the certainty of the outcome. You are no longer begging, you are aligning. This posture transforms your energy. People feel it. Circumstances respond to it. Life bends to meet it. Because gratitude is not passive, it is one of the most active forces you can release into the world. It multiplies what it touches. It energizes your spirit. It awakens your inner magnetism. When you are genuinely grateful, you shift from waiting to receiving. You step out of time and into eternity, into the now where all things are possible. This practice does not require a specific ritual, it requires a state. You can feel this gratitude while walking down the street, while brushing your teeth, while falling asleep. You can carry it into every moment until it becomes your natural state. And when it does, miracles no longer feel like interruptions. They feel like the most logical next step, because you have been living with them in spirit all along. There may be days when the evidence seems far away, when doubts whisper and fears rise. On those days, return to gratitude, not because you need to force the miracle, but because you need to remember who you are. You are not one who waits in despair. You are one who expects with joy. Gratitude brings you back to that truth. It reminds you that nothing is out of reach, that everything is unfolding even now. Do not underestimate the power of saying thank you when your hands are still empty. That moment, perhaps more than any other, reveals the depth of your trust. Anyone can be grateful for what they see, but to be grateful before it appears, that is the sign of a creator. That is the mark of one who has stepped beyond the illusion of separation and into the unity of already having. So begin now. Not tomorrow, not after something shifts. Begin now. Feel it, say it, live it. Thank the universe for the healing, even if the pain still lingers. Thank the universe for the abundance, even if the bills are still due. Thank the universe for the love, even if you sleep alone. Because in your gratitude, you become the space where the miracle lands. You become the fertile ground where the invisible takes form. You become the embodiment of the very thing you once thought you had to chase. Gratitude in advance is the language of creation. It is the sacred echo of a soul that already knows the outcome. And when you live from that knowing, there is nothing you cannot bring into form. To transform your daily actions to match the reality you desire is to begin living as if your miracle has already arrived, not just in thought, not just in feeling, but in behavior. The universe does not simply respond to what you want, it responds to who you are. And who you are is revealed not by what you say you believe, but by how you move through your day, by the choices you make, the habits you keep, the words you speak, the tone in your voice, and the posture of your being. If you say you believe that a miracle is on its way, yet live as if nothing is changing, then the message you are broadcasting is one of contradiction. Desire without action is just a wish. And while imagination is the birthplace of all creation, it must be followed by embodiment. It must be supported by a lifestyle that affirms the truth you claim to believe. You cannot declare abundance and then act from lack. You cannot affirm healing and then behave like someone still broken. You cannot call in love and then carry the energy of loneliness. There must be congruence. Your actions must not betray your vision. To act in alignment is not about forcing things. It's about becoming the version of yourself that naturally attracts the life you want. If you were already living in your desired reality, how would you carry yourself? How would you dress? How would you speak to others? How would you start your morning? How would you spend your time? These are not superficial questions. These are the bridges that connect the inner and the outer, and every small decision becomes a vote for the future you say you're creating. Transformation doesn't happen in grand gestures, it happens in the invisible rituals you repeat every day. The way you talk to yourself when you first wake up, the way you respond to challenges, the way you treat your body, your space, your relationships. If you want to be the magnet to miracles, you must live as one who is already blessed, not because you're pretending, but because you know that reality bends to those who are bold enough to act in advance. When you behave as if the miracle has already occurred, you shift your energy. And this shift becomes undeniable. People feel it, circumstances align with it. Life begins to mirror the energy you carry. This is not magic, it's structure. Everything in your life reflects what you have embodied. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. And what you are is revealed in what you do repeatedly. This is where many fall short. They have the vision, they speak the words, but their actions remain tied to the old identity. They still cling to habits formed in fear. They still speak from wounds that haven't been released. They still make choices based on lack. And then they wonder why the miracle delays. But the miracle is never far. It is waiting for the version of you that is ready to receive it. And you become that version not by wishing harder, but by living differently. You cannot keep living in the vibration of the past and expect the future to arrive. You must release the behaviors that no longer belong to you. This is not about being perfect. It's about being intentional. Every action carries energy. Every decision is a declaration. When you choose to align your behavior with your belief, you become unstoppable. Not because you're trying harder, but because you're no longer working against yourself. Ask yourself daily, are my actions today aligned with the life I say I want? If I say I am healed, am I treating my body with reverence? If I say I am abundant, am I giving, saving, investing, and living with confidence? If I say I am loved, am I speaking to myself and others with compassion and openness? The answers to these questions will reveal the level of alignment you hold. And when you become aware, you gain the power to shift. This is not about faking it. It's about activating it. The version of you who already lives in the miracle exists now. They are not a distant future self. They are a present possibility. And every time you act from that place, you call them forward. You make space for them. You give them the wheel. And life will follow their lead. The world does not need to confirm your new reality for it to be real. You must act as if it's already true, and eventually it will be. This is how the invisible becomes visible. This is how energy becomes matter. The world does not change so that you can change. You change, and then the world catches up. You may not always feel ready. You may feel like a fraud at times. But remember, your actions are not just reflections of your reality. They are tools to shape it. When you step into the role, you give the universe permission to deliver the script. And what felt once far away begins to show up in the most unexpected ways. This is the path of power, to live each moment as if what you ask for is already yours, to take steps, make moves, set boundaries, open doors, not from desperation, but from identity. When you walk in the knowing that you are chosen, favored, guided, blessed, then your actions will become more than routines. They will become declarations of faith. The miracle does not arrive when you beg for it. It arrives when you become the version of yourself who already has it. And that version is formed in the fire of your daily choices. So show up differently, speak differently, move differently, not because you're forcing the future, but because you know it's already yours. And that knowing is the most powerful act of all. The universe does not shout, it whispers. In the stillness of your own being, a gentle voice is always speaking, calling you into alignment with your truest self. It does not beg you to perform. nor does it demand you prove your worth to the world. Instead, it invites you into a sacred silence, an inner sanctuary, where the real work of transformation begins. And that work, my friend, is not loud. It does not boast. It does not clamor for applause. It is quiet, invisible, and yet immensely powerful. To build yourself quietly is to walk in harmony with the laws of consciousness. It is to know that what is built in the unseen must by law reveal itself in the seen. And so you go inward, not as a retreat from life, but as the true battlefield upon which your destiny is shaped. You step into your imagination with reverence. You see not what is, but what must be. And you persist, not with noise, but with faith. The first way the universe teaches you to build quietly is through disciplined imagination. You close your eyes and you enter the scene of your fulfilled desire, not as a wish, not as a hope, but as something already accomplished. You feel it real. You saturate your being with the joy of its completion. You walk in that inner reality until the outer must conform. This is not fantasy, this is creation. The quiet, potent act of claiming what is yours by divine right. And as you do, the outer world shifts, silently, obediently. Then you learn the power of restraint. Not every truth must be spoken. Not every vision must be shared. What the universe births within you is sacred, and sacred things are not tossed into the mouths of wolves. You guard your becoming. You protect your becoming. You build in silence because the noise of the world is not qualified to judge what the infinite has whispered into your soul. You do not explain. You do not defend. You simply become. And in your becoming, you practice unwavering consistency. Each day a quiet act. Each moment a silent agreement with your higher self. There is no spectacle in repetition. There is no applause in the daily rituals of inner mastery. But these small unseen movements become the foundation of your new world. The universe delights in this quiet consistency, for it knows that what is done in stillness and solitude and secrecy will one day echo in the world for all to see. The next way is detachment. You no longer chase, you no longer grasp, you no longer beg life to notice your efforts. You understand the paradox. When you release your obsession with outcome, it comes, not because you stopped caring, but because you stepped into knowing. The universe is not persuaded by desperation. It responds to confidence. And confidence is quiet. Confidence walks away knowing what it asks for is already on its way. You stop performing, you start trusting. And finally, you cultivate inner peace. The kind of peace that is not based on circumstances. It is not the peace that waits for the storm to end. It is the peace that stands calm while the storm rages. You stop reacting. You stop justifying. You go within and you find the kingdom that has no need to prove itself to the world. This peace becomes your power, and from that power you create, you rise, you manifest. The universe is not in a rush. It is not loud. It is not dramatic. It is subtle, soft, and yet unstoppable. To align with it, you must become like it. You must build quietly in your thoughts, in your beliefs, in your faith. And when you do, what you build in silence will one day speak so loudly the world will be forced to listen. Imagination is not a fleeting daydream or idle pastime. It is the true workshop of creation. It is the place where the invisible becomes tangible, where the unseen is carved into form, and where every future event is first drafted in the blueprint of consciousness. When the universe whispers to you to build yourself quietly, it is inviting you to sit in the sanctuary of your own mind and engage in the sacred act of imagining, not with hope, not with longing, but with conviction. The power to construct a new reality does not lie in the hands of others, nor does it rest in circumstances. It resides in the stillness of your own inner world. To imagine is to hold the substance of things not yet seen and treat them as real. Now, when you close your eyes and feel the texture of your fulfilled desire, you are not pretending, you are creating. You are stepping beyond the logic of your senses and entering into the realm of causation. Every external change you long for is merely the echo of a change that must first take place within. If your current world feels heavy, stagnant, or limited, it is not because the universe has abandoned you. It is because the image you are holding inside, the one you entertain most often, is projecting itself outward with perfect accuracy. You cannot build a new world while clinging to old thoughts. You must abandon the former image of yourself. You must die to it, and in your imagination resurrect the version of you that aligns with your highest desire. This is not an act to be performed once. It is a practice, a daily returning to the state of the wish fulfilled, a steady discipline of closing your eyes and stepping into the scene that would be true if your desire were already fact. The key is to make it real, not just to see it, but to feel it. The scene must possess the vividness and richness of reality. You must hear the words someone would say to you. You must feel the joy in your heart as if the thing were already yours. You must walk through that imagined world as though it were more real than the one your senses present. Because in truth, it is. The outer world is only a shadow, a reflection, an after effect. The inner world is the cause. The moment you accept this truth, you realize that nothing is truly outside of your reach, not because you are powerful by worldly standards, but because the universe responds not to effort or force, but to assumption. It responds to the inner acceptance of a thing as already accomplished. This is why imagination used with feeling and persistence is the master key. It allows you to dwell in the end while the outer circumstances catch up, and they will, they must, for the law is fixed. What you feel is true within must become true without. The timeline may vary, the path may surprise you, but the result is inevitable. The world may urge you to hustle, to strive, to prove, but the universe knows a better way. It knows that creation is not noisy, it is not chaotic, it is quiet, deliberate, intentional. When you imagine from the end, you are not seeking your desire, you are embodying it. You are no longer separate from it. You become it. You speak as if it is done. You walk as if it is done. You breathe as if it is done. And in that state, you shift the course of events. The bridges of incidents begin to align. People move, opportunities unfold. Not because you forced them, but because you changed your conception of yourself. And this is the secret. You are not trying to change the world. You are changing your relationship to it. You are changing your self-concept. You are becoming the one who already has what they once desired. And from this new state of being, everything begins to rearrange itself. You don't need to beg, plead, or push. You only need to persist in your inner world. Hold the image. Return to it each day. Make it your home. The noise of the world may tempt you to abandon your inner sanctuary. Doubt may whisper that nothing is happening. But in those moments, remember, all things grow in silence before they bloom in the open. You are not building a fantasy. You are constructing a future. You are laying each brick with your thoughts, your emotions, your beliefs. And the more faithfully you dwell in the end, the sooner the structure will rise around you in the world of form. This is not magic. It is law. To use your imagination in this way requires trust. It requires a quiet confidence that what you have conceived within must come to pass. It is not your job to control the how or the when. It is only your role to persist in the state of the wish fulfilled, to make it so vivid in your inner world that the outer has no choice but to yield to it. You don't speak about your desire as if it's far away. You speak from it, you act from it, you imagine from it, and you do this not loudly, not publicly, but silently, faithfully, in the privacy of your own consciousness. The most powerful creations do not begin with action, they begin with awareness. The awareness that everything begins within, that your imagination is not mere fantasy, but the womb of reality. When you learn to dwell in your inner world as though it were more real than the outer, you begin to understand the secret language of the universe. It is not a language of noise, of striving, or of public declaration. It is a language of inner knowing, of quiet assumption, of silent, unshakable belief. And so you build, brick by brick, image by image, moment by moment. And all the while the world will see nothing. They will not hear the sound of hammers or witness the scaffolding of your inner construction. But one day they will see the edifice. They will see the result. And they will wonder how it appeared. But you will know. You will know that long before it came into view. It was fully formed within. You created it not with noise, but with the quiet force of imagination. There is a sacredness in silence that the world has forgotten. In its rush to be seen, heard, and validated, it has abandoned the gentle power of quiet creation. Yet the universe still honors those who build in silence, who do not parade their vision, who do not seek confirmation from others before believing in themselves. When the seed is planted in the soil, there is no applause. No one cheers for the root that pierces the darkness, or the tender sprout that quietly pushes upward, but it grows. It rises, not because it announced itself, but because it honored the laws of becoming. In the same way, your dreams, your visions, your inner convictions require silence to root themselves deeply into the soil of reality. When you receive an idea, a desire, or a revelation, it comes to you clothed in vulnerability. Like a newborn, it must be protected, nurtured, and held close, not exposed to the elements of doubt and cynicism, not thrown into the harsh glare of public scrutiny, but carried quietly in your soul until it gains strength. To share too soon is to invite resistance before you are ready to withstand it. Every vision is sacred, and sacred things are not handed out to those who will not understand them. The universe speaks in symbols and stillness. It does not scream its intentions. It whispers them to the one who will listen in the dark. You must become that listener. You must understand that there is power in not explaining. There is authority in not seeking permission. You do not owe anyone a blueprint of your unfolding. What you are becoming is not up for debate. The moment you feel the need to defend your dream is the moment you give others the power to define it. You silence your own magic by allowing it to be judged by those who cannot see what you see, not because they are enemies, but because they are not the carriers of your vision. It was not shown to them, it was shown to you, and for that reason alone, it belongs in your care. The world will always ask, what are you doing? Why are you different? Where is your progress? It will demand proof before belief. But the universe works in reverse. It demands belief before proof. And belief is often marked by those who cannot feel what you feel. If you allow the external noise to shape your internal conviction, your foundation will shake. But if you keep your dream private, if you shield it from premature exposure, it will have the space it needs to develop in strength and clarity. In silence, it will find its form. And so you move differently. You speak less. You act from knowing. You do not share your vision with everyone because not everyone has earned the right to witness your becoming. Some will diminish what you are building because they cannot conceive of it. Others will envy it. Some will try to mold it into their image, distorting the purity of what was given to you. But in silence, there is protection. In silence, your path remains undisturbed. What is kept sacred cannot be defiled. And the energy you save by not explaining is redirected into creation itself. This does not mean isolation, it means discretion. You walk among others, but you know who you are becoming. You participate in the world, but you are no longer shaped by it. You withdraw from the need to be seen so you can focus on being real. You stop reacting to expectations and start responding to the divine impulse within you. And in that space of inner alignment, the transformation begins. Quietly, gently, powerfully. The most profound changes in your life will not be announced with fanfare. They will begin in whispers, in moments of solitude, in choices made without anyone watching. You will feel the shift before it becomes visible, and in those early stages, you must protect it, not out of fear, but out of reverence. You are not hiding your growth, you are respecting it. You are letting it take form without interference. There is a wisdom in this kind of silence that the world does not understand. And that is why the universe honors it. When you build in silence, you remove ego from the equation. You stop trying to impress others with progress and instead focus on alignment. You stop measuring your worth by what others see and begin to recognize it by what you feel within. You realize that silence is not emptiness. It is fullness waiting to be revealed. It is potential waiting to be realized, and when the time is right, What has been formed in darkness will emerge in light, not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. There is a temptation to share your journey, to gain encouragement, to feel supported, to make your dream real by talking about it. But words alone do not give it power. Faith does. Imagination does. Persistence does. And all of these thrive best in silence. Not the silence of fear, but the silence of authority. The silence that says, I know who I am and I don't need to prove it. That kind of silence is magnetic. It draws the right people, the right circumstances, and the right opportunities, not through noise, but through alignment. Every time you choose silence over explanation, you strengthen your connection to the divine. You say, without words, I trust. You trust the timing. You trust the process. You trust yourself. You trust that what was given to you will come into being, not because others approved of it, but because you honored it. And in that honoring, you became the vessel through which it could manifest. So you build quietly, you imagine quietly, you correct your inner conversations quietly, you walk in the reality of your desire even if no one sees it yet, you feel it, live it, and breathe it in the hidden chambers of your heart. And that is enough. That is more than enough. Because what is rooted in silence cannot be uprooted by noise. What is born in the inner world will always find its way into the outer one, if you are faithful enough to protect it with your silence. There is a quiet force that builds empires, transforms identities, and rewrites destinies. It does not arrive in dramatic bursts, nor does it need grand declarations. It is slow, subtle, and consistent. In a world addicted to speed and spectacle, this force is often overlooked. But the universe knows its value. It is the quiet act of showing up again and again, even when nothing around you seems to change. This is the silent builder, the daily repetition, the invisible foundation upon which all real transformation stands. Most people underestimate consistency because it rarely provides instant gratification. The ego craves rapid progress, visible results, and loud affirmation. But the spirit moves differently. The spirit honors process. It knows that the most powerful structures rise from deep, stable roots. A single drop of water means little, but drop after drop, unseen, uncelebrated, can hollow stone. In the same way, each moment you return to your vision, each time you affirm the truth of your desire, each day you persist in imagining the life you want as though it already is, you are building. Quietly, faithfully, eternally. There is nothing glamorous about consistency. It does not entertain. It does not boast. It is humble, even mundane. And yet it is through this very simplicity that miracles are born. Every time you imagine yourself already living in the reality you desire, you impress that image more deeply onto the canvas of your mind. And with each impression, the outer world bends. It adjusts. It reflects what has been so deeply impressed within. But this reflection does not always come at once. That is why those who lack faith quit. They mistake delay for denial. They abandon the practice just before the breakthrough. They seek signs instead of staying faithful to the inner knowing that the sign is already within. To be consistent is to say, I do not need to see it yet to believe it. It is to walk in the unseen, day after day, without applause, without recognition, without external validation. You imagine the scene of your desire fulfilled, not once, not twice, but until it becomes your dwelling place. You live from that inner reality, even as the world offers no evidence. This is not delusion, it is devotion. It is the quiet confidence that what you feel real must one day appear. The delay is not rejection, it is construction. It is the time required for the invisible to gather form. When you practice consistency in silence, you become unshakable. Because your strength no longer comes from outside affirmation. It comes from within. You stop chasing the outer world and begin to create it. You stop reacting to what is and begin responding to what must be. You become a vessel through which the universe can move, steady, open, reliable. The universe does not work with the frantic. It works with the faithful. It seeks those who will not abandon the vision when storms come. And storms will come. Doubt will knock. silence will seem endless. But if you remain, if you hold the image, if you return to the practice even when it feels pointless, you become the exception, the one who didn't give up. There is a special kind of magic in repetition, not the mindless kind, but the conscious kind, the repetition that is rooted in belief, in imagination, in deliberate attention. Each time you practice imagining your desired reality, you are chiseling away the old self, the self that doubted, the self that feared, the self that waited for permission. And in its place, you are revealing the self that already is, the one who holds the new identity with certainty. You don't need to shout about this transformation. You don't need to prove it to anyone. You just need to show up again and again, quietly, purposefully. People often ask, why hasn't it happened yet? And the answer lies in the question itself. That doubt, that impatience, that subtle disbelief disrupts the process. The seed cannot grow if the soil is dug up every day to check its progress. But when you are consistent, when you tend to your inner world as though it were already done, the universe moves. Not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. That alignment, repeated over time, is unstoppable. And there is another gift in consistency. It refines you. It teaches discipline, patience, and trust. These are not minor qualities. They are the very tools you will need to sustain what you manifest. The process of consistent inner work is not just about getting what you want. It is about becoming the version of you who can hold it. Without this inner transformation, even the most miraculous manifestation will slip through your fingers. But if you build slowly, silently, and consistently, what you create will be built to last. There is no secret technique, no shortcut, no miracle hack. The real miracle is found in the daily choice to return to your vision, to return to your assumption, to return to your inner scene, where all is already done. This return is your offering, your agreement with the universe. It says, I trust the unseen, I trust the law, I trust myself. And that trust, repeated, becomes reality. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to feel inspired every day. What matters is that you do not stop, that you do not allow temporary emotions to steer you off course, that you do not let the silence fool you into thinking nothing is happening. In truth, the silence is where everything is happening. It is in the silence that your repetition gathers force, that your belief deepens, that your identity shifts, and it is from that shift that the world must follow. This path is not glamorous, it is not quick, but it is certain. If you stay with it, if you continue to imagine, to feel, to affirm, even when your senses give you no encouragement, you will see the harvest. Not because you are lucky, but because you are loyal to your vision, to your truth, to your daily quiet practice. And when it arrives, when the form of your desire finally appears, it will not surprise you. You will not feel like a stranger to it, because you've already lived it 1,000 times in your mind. You've rehearsed the joy, the peace, the success. You've dwelled in it so often that it feels natural. This is the gift of consistency. It does not create in noise, it creates in silence. And yet it speaks the loudest when the time comes. While others wonder how it happened, you will know. You will remember every silent night you held the image, every moment you closed your eyes and believed, every time you returned to your inner world when the outer world gave you nothing, and you will understand that nothing was in vain. Every repetition mattered, every moment counted, every quiet act built the foundation that made your new reality possible. There is a moment in the process of inner transformation when the mind wants to interfere. It wants to know how. It wants to control. It wants to see signs, results, validation. And yet, in that moment, the voice of the universe remains still. It does not argue, nor does it defend its timing. Instead, it waits. It waits for you to release your grip on the outcome, to soften your demand for proof, to surrender the need to force what is already promised. The great paradox is this: the more tightly you chase what you desire, the more it eludes you. But when you release it, when you let go, when you trust, It finds its way to you, gently and without resistance. This is the beauty of detachment. It is not about giving up. It is not about no longer wanting your desire. It is about knowing so deeply that it is already yours. You no longer need to obsess over when or how. You do not let go of the vision. You let go of the tension, the anxiety, the impatience. You remain inwardly convinced, but outwardly calm. And in that calm, something incredible begins to happen. Life begins to shift. The very thing you once chased begins to draw itself toward you. Not because you forced it, but because you made space for it. There is a kind of quiet confidence that is far more powerful than striving. It does not speak often. It does not explain itself. It simply knows. And because it knows, it does not panic when the world remains silent. It does not tremble when the door does not open immediately. It does not rush. Because it understands that what is truly aligned does not require begging. It flows. It arrives on time, even if that time is not yours. Detachment is the spiritual art of removing the weight of desperation and replacing it with the ease of faith. To detach is to understand that the universe is already in motion, that the moment you imagined your desire, the moment you felt it real within, you initiated a movement in the unseen. And every time you return to that state of the wish fulfilled, you amplify that movement. But when you begin to doubt, to question, to check for signs as if they're evidence in a courtroom, you interrupt the current. You step out of alignment. You begin to act not from knowing, but from fear. And fear repels. Fear delays. Fear resists what is trying to flow naturally into your life. You cannot manifest what you are holding hostage. If you grip your desire so tightly that your entire emotional state depends on it arriving today, you are not living from the end, you are living in lack. And lack perpetuates itself. It creates more waiting, more struggle, more distance between where you are and where you long to be. But the moment you release the need to control, the moment you return to your inner peace, you enter the vibration of fulfillment. And fulfillment, like a magnet, draws its match from the unseen into form. There is a subtle power in no longer needing what you desire, not because you don't care, but because you have already received it in consciousness. You have already touched it in imagination. You have already lived it in feeling. You walk differently when you know it's yours. You speak with a calm certainty. You stop seeking reassurance. You begin to enjoy the present again, not as a waiting room, but as a sacred space where the harvest quietly ripens. You know that nothing is missing. You know that what is yours cannot pass you. You know that all is unfolding even in silence. This knowing frees you. It liberates your spirit from the prison of waiting. You stop checking the clock. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop trying to manipulate the process. You begin to rest, not in passivity, but in alignment. You continue to imagine, you continue to feel, but you stop pushing, you stop needing, you stop telling stories of not yet, and you start living stories of already. You shift your entire being from asking to receiving, from chasing to attracting, from doubt to embodiment. The detachment is not cold or careless, it is deeply loving. It says, I trust the divine timing of what I have already claimed within. It says, I no longer measure the process by appearances. It says, I know that unseen hands are at work, orchestrating every detail with precision. And because you trust, you smile more, you breathe deeper, you become lighter. And in this lightness, your energy aligns perfectly with the life you want to live. The world may not understand this. It will tell you that you must hustle, grind, suffer. It will say that if you are not struggling, you must not be trying hard enough. But the universe responds not to struggle, but to alignment. It does not need your panic. It needs your presence. It needs your steady knowing. That is what opens the door. That is what allows the unseen to become seen. Not effort, not stress, not anxiety, but calm certainty, silent assurance. The deep, unshakable feeling that it is done. This is the power of letting go, of walking in faith while holding the vision, of trusting the promise without demanding proof, of building yourself in silence while knowing the world will one day echo your inner conviction. And it will. Not because you fought for it, but because you believed so fully, so deeply, so consistently, that the universe had no choice but to yield. You stopped begging and started becoming. You stopped waiting and started embodying. And in that transformation, you allowed what was always yours to find its way home. There is a place within you, untouched by noise, untouched by judgment, untouched by fear. It is the calm beneath the surface, the stillness behind your breath, the silence behind every thought. This place is not built with effort nor found through force. It is discovered when you withdraw from the chaos of reaction, from the push and pull of circumstances, from the endless chatter of the outer world, and turn inward. Here, in this sacred interior, you meet your true power, not in the form of control, not in the form of dominance, but as peace. Deep, radiant, unshakable peace. This peace is not an escape. It is not an act of avoidance. It is the foundation of all conscious creation. Without it, your thoughts scatter, your feelings waver, and your imagination becomes foggy. But with it, your entire inner world becomes coherent, focused, and potent. The universe speaks through peace. It does not shout over your anxiety. It does not contend with your fear. It waits for your stillness, and in that stillness it moves. When your inner waters are calm, they reflect the image of your desired life perfectly, and the world, which only mirrors what you are, responds with equal harmony. Most people live in a constant state of reaction. They are disturbed by every sound, every delay, every word spoken against them, every moment that doesn't go as planned. And in doing so, they surrender their creative power to external forces. They believe that peace comes from perfect conditions, that it is something to be earned after success arrives, after problems are solved, after people treat them right. But peace is not the reward. It is the source. It is the starting point. It is the atmosphere in which all great things are born. When you learn to cultivate inner peace, regardless of outer conditions, you become immovable. Not because you are emotionless, but because you are rooted. The wind may blow, the storm may rage, but you remain centered, not passive, but poised. You are no longer the puppet of external events. You are no longer thrown about by what others say, by what doesn't work out, by what hasn't yet appeared. You have chosen a different seat, from observer to creator, from reactor to imaginer, from chaser to attractor. You create not from urgency, but from serenity. And in that serenity, your imagination flourishes. You see more clearly, you feel more vividly, you believe more easily. The noise of doubt, of fear, of worry is silenced, and in its place grows the sound of quiet confidence. It is in this quiet confidence that miracles unfold, not because you demanded them, but because you became the version of yourself who lives in harmony with them. Peace aligns you with your desires faster than any forceful action could ever achieve, because peace is the signal of trust. It tells the universe, I know, it is done. You do not need to announce this peace to the world. You do not need to prove your calmness. True peace is invisible. It is not loud. It does not try to impress, but it is deeply felt by you and by everything around you. People begin to notice something different. They can't explain it, but they feel it. Your presence changes. You walk into a room and carry a calm that influences others. You become magnetic, not because you tried to be, but because peace is magnetic. It draws, it attracts, it calls forth that which matches its frequency. You will notice that the more peace you cultivate within, the less you seek validation, the less you argue, the less you chase. You stop looking for signs because you become the sign. You stop asking when because you know that it's already in motion. You stop explaining yourself because your spirit has already agreed with the outcome. And this agreement is not noisy. It is silent, but it is powerful. It is what builds worlds. Peace does not mean inactivity. It means inspired action. Action that flows from alignment, not from panic. Action that feels guided, not forced. You begin to move when it feels right, not because you're afraid of missing out. You speak when you're led to, not to fill the silence. You wait when needed, not in laziness, but in wisdom. And this new rhythm, this flow, becomes your life. You are no longer racing. You are no longer proving. You are no longer battling the moment. You are creating within it. And the more you live from this inner peace, the more you start to see how much time you used to waste reacting, how many opportunities were clouded by fear, how many dreams were delayed by inner chaos. But there is no need to grieve that time. You were learning. You were discovering what didn't work so you could finally return to what always has, the stillness within you, the center, the quiet truth that you've always had the power, not because you shouted loud enough, but because you believe deeply enough. In the quiet you build, in the peace you grow, and from this state the life you imagine begins to meet you, not as a distant hope, but as a natural extension of who you have become. It starts with a moment of silence, a deep breath, a decision not to react, a choice to return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And in that space, the world around you shifts. Not immediately, not with fireworks, but certainly, surely, and silently. Because peace is not passive. It is the power that moves mountains without lifting a stone. It is the language of the universe. And once you speak it fluently, you will never need to raise your voice again.